How awkward must it be to offer your love guru services to someone only to find out that this person is also in love with your crush? Find out how this tangled situation ends. Beware of spoilers. Let us introduce you to Jiao Miao Miao, a college student who pursues love as her mission and helps others find it too. She defines love as a force that gives you the courage to chase the unknown, and she clings to that idea with deep conviction. Gu Zoe, on the other hand, thinks that love is absurd and loses interest in anything romantic. He sees her offering items to help people find true love, so he shuts down her booth with harsh words. He points out that it's all a scam and warns her that she could be fined if she keeps it up, leaving Miao Miao on guard. Zoe also warns the girl who is buying not to let herself be fooled, but she, captivated by him, buys the bracelet and leaves very happy. Miao Miao confronts Zoe and calls him a pervert because of an incident at the bus stop that she hasn't forgotten. He stays calm, opens a video, and shows how he stopped a man who was about to touch her, although he accidentally ended up spanking her. She hit him then, and now, remembering the scene, the misunderstanding once again fills the air with tension. After learning the truth, Miao Miao, embarrassed, apologizes and offers to make it up to him by helping him find true love, but he rejects her offer without hesitation. A few days later, she attends a class about love that promises to turn them into expert Casanovas, with practical assignments and joint evaluations. The teacher hands out cards to write down potential partners and explains that each pair will have to complete tasks. The final grade will be the average of both partners' scores. And since fate has a sense of humor, Zoe accidentally walks in, tries to leave, but the teacher stops him and assigns him as Miao Miao's partner, sealing a rather awkward alliance. The first assignment requires them to write down 5 things to do with their partner and complete at least one before the next class. Miao Miao enthusiastically fills out her list, jotting down options and looking ahead with anticipation, while Zoe leaves his sheet blank, unmoved, refusing to play along with the romance game. She watches him, irritated, and realizes it won't be easy to change his mind. Even so, the next day, Zoe waits for her outside the dorm for their first date, and she arrives all dressed up, paying attention to every detail. He doesn't even notice, maintaining his neutrality and taking her to the least expected place, a courtroom. He studies law and thinks that a date in an academic setting is efficient and very appropriate. So they attend a mock trial in which a man is found guilty of stealing money and designer bags. Miao Miao talks nonstop and breaks the solemn atmosphere. Zoe ends the date and leaves without another word, leaving her alone and with a heavy sense of disappointment. On her way back to the dorm, Miao Miao runs into Yuang Ye, a classmate who is desperately looking for a girlfriend and flirts with everyone. He asks her to be his girlfriend, promising the best dating experience, but she tactfully turns him down, trying not to cause another scene. Yuang Ye corners her with questions anyway, and nervously she blurts out that she already has a boyfriend and walks away. In love class, Miao Miao is the only one with a low grade, since she gives Zoe a 0 even though he gives her a 60. A discussion arises when the teacher reminds them that love can be born from enmity and that distance increases attraction, asking for patience before making judgments. As punishment for the low average, the teacher orders them to repeat the date or else they will fail the class with no remedy. Zoe is concerned about time and efficiency, and he makes this clear to Miao Miao. He states that their next dates will be simple, direct, and without unnecessary delays. She listens to him warily, without giving up on her idea of romance, since an austere method is agreed upon for an emotional goal, and that contradiction keeps growing and growing. When classes are over, Miao Miao returns to her old spot and runs into Yiran, the client from the beginning. She thanks her excitedly. Ever since she started wearing the necklace, she's seen her crush more often and takes it as a sign or something. But even so, she's come back because she doesn't know how to approach him and is looking for some kind of step-by-step guide. Miao Miao hesitates, but faced with her insistence, agrees to help her with a plan. The first step is to find out the guy's schedule and look for a casual encounter. The second is to catch his attention. And the third is the most crucial of all. When she approaches him, she has to recite his name to the bracelet in order to attract him, opening the door to getting closer. Later on, it's revealed who Yidan is in love with. It's none other than Zoe, whom she sees in the cafeteria, and she whispers his name to the bracelet just as she was advised. After that, she takes a deep breath and stands up to drop her chopsticks near him. Zoe quietly picks them up and doesn't get involved, so Yidan moves on to plan B. She accidentally bumps into Yang Ye, who was walking by. Yang Ye gets annoyed and escalates the tension, but Zoe steps in and sits back down, putting an end to the incident. Yi-chan takes advantage of the moment to ask for his contact information under the pretext of questions about the law major, and leaves with a small victory that fuels her hope. At that moment, Miao Miao and her friend arrive, and her friend pushes her to sit next to Zoe so she doesn't lose ground. They argue, as always, until Miao Miao offers him some onion to silence him with an impulsive joke. Zoe suddenly faints, putting an end to any debate, which causes Miao Miao to urgently take him to the infirmary. There, they discover that the boy is allergic to onions, and the scare turns into a warning. She apologizes and suggests going out to eat, but he proposes that as compensation, she give him a good grade and let him choose the place for their next date, shifting the focus to what's coming next. After this, Meow Meow takes him that night to an abandoned building, dark and silent. Legend has it that a senior student, a lover in their final year, took their own life for love, and their soul remained trapped there. Since then, someone can be heard crying. Sue knows this story and dismisses it as a trick for the gullible. He insists there are no wandering souls or anything like that, but still refuses to go in for a reason he won't say out loud, staying at the threshold. But Meow Meow insists, he becomes unsettled, and the two of them explore until they unknowingly get separated, and the atmosphere grows increasingly tense. Su Wei, feeling uneasy, recites fragments of law in his mind and lets logic guide his steps. He doesn't realize he's alone until Meow Meow appears silently behind him, and the shock makes him scream. Indignation mixes with embarrassment, and their heartbeats quicken in the empty hallway. She tries to calm him down, but a distant noise interrupts the calm and puts both of them on alert. The game with the unknown turns into a threat, as it seems it's no longer just a legend and nothing more. Su Wei senses that someone is inside the building, and caution turns into urgency. Both of them run back toward the university, dodging shadows and corridors, their pulses pounding in their throats. On the way, they jump over a wall, and upon landing, Su Wei loses his balance and ends up on top of Meow Meow, their lips brushing in an accidental kiss that leaves them both frozen. After that, they separate, confused, and return to the dormitory in silence, measuring each step. The next day, the rumor spreads with details that distort the truth and harm Su Wei, pushing him into the center of a social storm. When he sees Meow Meow, Su Wei pulls her out of the classroom with determination and confronts her for having told what happened. She explains that she only told her roommate and that there's nothing to worry about, trying to diffuse the conflict. But he replies that defamation is a crime and that he could even report her at any moment, drawing an unnegotiable line. Minutes later, Meow Meow comes in and finds that he has given her a 0, sparking a clash between her academic pride and her dignity. Nevertheless, Meow Meow sends a message that night to apologize, and Su Wei accepts with a gesture that eases the tension. The next morning, he treats her with unexpected kindness. He moves her chair, brings her breakfast, and even a bottle of water. She is left confused by this abrupt change. Then the teacher arrives and poses a simple yet weighty question: what is romance? But no one answers with certainty. So, she assigns the task of creating it, of building it through measurable actions. The challenge hangs over each couple like a promise that's hard to fulfill. With this in mind, Meow Meow and Su Wei prepare for their next date, combining her obsession with detail and his efficiency. They adjust ideas, choose scenes, and treat time as a limited resource. For this occasion, they go into the city and turn their outing into a collection of photos, capturing gestures and corners. Then they play on a claw machine. Meow Meow nervously insists on her desire to win something that will symbolize the day. Su Wei steps in with precision, and together they catch a stuffed toy, after which they share their small victory. But suddenly it starts to rain and they look for shelter under the bus stop, listening to the drumming on the roof. He apologizes for not having created a romantic moment, but she replies that waiting for the rain to pass already is one, letting a bit of warmth in. At that moment, Su Wei brushes his hand across Meow Meow's cheek, and her blush gives her away without a word. Right after, he covers her shoulders with his jacket and they run together to the girls' dormitory, sharing the same pace under the rain. She asks him to wait a moment because she's going to get her umbrella, clearly wanting to prolong this encounter. But just then, Yiran appears with her own umbrella, stepping in without warning. After that, Yiran convinces Su Wei to take the umbrella and leave before the dormitory door closes. And he agrees and leaves quickly, following the logic of the curfew. However, Yiran doesn't go inside. She decides to find out who the girl he was waiting for is. So she hides behind the door, holds her breath, and waits in silence. Moments later, Meow Meow comes out with an umbrella in her hand, revealing the connection Yiran was looking for. This discovery sparks a new strategy in her, and the game changes hands. Later, Yiran visits Meow Meow's room to ask for more advice on how to get closer to the boy she likes, pretending to be innocent. And without Meow Meow noticing, Yiran records the entire conversation, saving every word on her phone. During their talk, Meow Meow steps out for a moment and leaves her phone on the bed, and at that moment a message from Su Wei arrives, inviting her out to eat for his birthday. Yiran reads it, deletes everything, and leaves, sealing a silent blow. The next day, Su Wei mentions the message she never saw. But before he can go into detail, Yiran shows up with a cake and subtly hints to Meow Meow that she's in love with him, provoking jealousy that drives Meow Meow to leave with a heavy heart. That night, Su Wei calls her, and Meow Meow hangs up without any explanation, burdened by the weight of the misunderstanding. The next morning in the cafeteria, he asks her why she did it, looking for an opening to clear things up. Yi Ran interrupts again and cuts off the conversation completely, sending her back to the table feeling awkward. Miao Miao gets up angrily and leaves, with Su Wei following behind, trying to cheer her up in the hallway. Later, during class, Yuan Ye takes the opportunity to approach her. She isn't interested, but she pretends to fall for his charms to provoke Su Wei, sparking another flame. Su Wei tries to fix things, but Yi Ran shows up again to return the jacket he left in the cafeteria, adding yet another interruption. And our protagonist, more annoyed than ever, decides to go with Yuan Ye to the basketball court to put some distance between them. The change of scenery doesn't dissolve the tension, it only shifts it. However, there's an unexpected twist. Everything happens when Yuan Ye's girlfriend arrives and starts yelling, accusing Miao Miao of being a boyfriend stealer, pushing the situation to the limit. Yuan Ye tries to calm her down, reaching out his hands and asking for peace, but his voice is lost among the murmurs. The students gather around the circle, curious, and among them is Yi Rang, who, without hesitation, raises her phone and records everything. But fortunately for Miao Miao, Zhou Wei bursts in, throws a basketball, and hits Yuan Ye, then introduces himself as none other than our girl's boyfriend, after which he threatens to call the police if the girl doesn't apologize. Ashamed, the girlfriend lowers her head and apologizes while Yi Rang's camera keeps rolling, ready to leave consequences. Later on, the duo walks toward the beach and the waves give them a moment to breathe. They reconcile with brief words and lingering glances. Shortly after, we see Zhou Wei working as an intern at his father's law firm, dressed soberly and standing with a very firm posture. His first case is that of a woman seeking a divorce and wanting to leave half of her assets to her partner. Zhou Wei coldly explains to her, from a legal standpoint, that she can keep everything. The woman becomes furious, accuses him of being insensitive, and leaves the room, while Zhou Wei's father harshly scolds him and throws him out of the place. Outside, Miao Miao, who has heard everything, urges him to apologize and convinces the woman to be her model for the clothing line she is creating, opening up the possibility for a change in the atmosphere. That same afternoon, Miao Miao sets up a small improvised studio and takes photos of the woman, carefully considering the angle and lighting. Along the way, she gives her a dress and asks her to try it on, hoping to help her regain her self-confidence. With patience, she manages to get Zhou Wei to reconcile with her and to soften his rigidity with an empathetic gesture. As they leave the place, Zhou Wei thanks her for the help and asks why she is giving away the dress. Miao Miao replies that the dress can be replaced, but that woman's happiness never can. With these words, Zhou Wei gathers his courage, confesses that he likes her, and says he wants to be her boyfriend. She, with a restrained smile, accepts, and the air between them feels renewed. Back at the university, the hallways are abuzz with rumors. They accuse Miao Miao of being unfaithful and a boyfriend stealer. Furious, she stands in front of one of the students who shows her the video that Yi Rang recorded the day before, along with the footage from that time in the room. After this, Zhou Wei takes her by the arm and leads her out of the cafeteria, shielding her from the commotion and taking her to confront Yi Rang directly. The young woman responsible for everything confesses that she did it all for love, her voice trembling as she tries to justify herself. Our couple turns around and leaves, abandoning her alone with the weight of her guilt and a silence that does nothing to heal the harm. Now as a couple, Miao Miao takes Zhou Wei to a clothing studio to get his measurements, planning to have a custom suit made for him. He happily agrees, but every tape measure that brushes against his skin makes them both nervous. And Zhou Wei's best idea to break the tension is to give her a quick kiss in the blink of an eye, and then they go back to taking measurements. When they return to the university, it turns out Zhou Wei's motorcycle breaks down and the two of them have to push it under the dim light of dusk. When they arrive, the gates are closed. Zhou Wei suggests going to his house just across the street, and the night lends itself to intimacy. Once inside, Miao Miao is impressed by the beauty of the place. She observes every detail as if it were a private museum. Zhou Wei gives her a clean shirt and prepares a bath, attentive to her every gesture. The atmosphere heats up with the steam and their glances, and the distance between them closes without a word. The house envelops them, and the promise of what is to come carries them through until dawn. While there, he kisses her passionately for a long moment, and time seems to stand still. The next day, they walk across campus and feel the curious stares fixed on them, especially from Miao Miao's roommate. Then their professor arrives and announces that the class is about to end, but leaves them with an assignment, a simulation. They must imagine a dark and windy night on the way to the university, the car with a dead battery, and decide to go to one of their houses. Exactly what happened to our couple. The professor asks them, and the couple recounts exactly what they did, but without revealing that it wasn't just an exercise, but a recent experience, keeping their shared secret. After a few days, Zhou Wei shows up looking impeccable in his new suit at a university exhibition. Miao Miao watches him proudly, and the silence of the others does nothing to diminish her smile. When they leave, she invites him to a skewer restaurant, and the table fills with smoke and flavors. They talk about how they haven't seen Yirang or Yuanye again, and they take it as good news. Suddenly, Zuowei goes to the bathroom and Meow Meow notices a man sitting across from another girl. When the girl stands up, the man puts something in her drink. Seconds later, the girl comes back and picks up her glass. Meow Meow gets up and warns her not to drink it, assuring her that the man put something in it. But the girl doesn't believe her and frowns, about to defy the warning. At that moment, Zuowei returns, hears the explanation, and confronts the man, telling him that what he did is illegal. With an annoyed gesture, the guy grabs the glass and drinks it all in one go, causing a tense silence. In the end, he pulls a ring from the bottom. His intention was a marriage proposal, not harm, and the misunderstanding hits like a bucket of cold water. Very embarrassed, Meow Meow and Zuowei apologize for having ruined the surprise and stay to drink with the couple, trying to ease the awkwardness. As night falls, Zuowei supports Meow Meow, who is drunk and very giggly, until he takes her home, looking after her every step of the way. The next day, Zuowei's mother arrives unannounced, and the first thing she sees is the couple kissing in the kitchen. Meow Meow pulls away in terror and leaves, while the mother tells her son that in a month they will go abroad and that he will leave university. Meow Meow hears this news from Yirang, and unease settles over her like a shadow. But on another front, the woman who modeled for Meow Meow invites her out to eat as she wants to thank her for the confidence she gave her that day and introduce her to her brother. He is Sun Si, a fashion student in Paris who has returned to China. Meow Meow tries to refuse, but it's already too late. Sun Si arrives at the restaurant, greeting everyone with impeccable manners and politeness. He talks about himself and his achievements without pause, proud and enthusiastic, while Meow Meow just listens with forced politeness. The situation drags on, and escape seems like the only way out. So, in an attempt to escape, Meow Meow texts her friend and asks for an urgent excuse, to which her friend calls within seconds and pretends there was a fire in the room. Meow Meow apologizes to Sun Si and leaves. Unfortunately, Zuowei sees them together and his face hardens, so he goes to a bar to drown his sorrows. There, he runs into his teacher, who watches him with concern and doesn't hesitate to call Meow Meow to come pick him up. That night, a long overdue conversation can no longer be postponed, and within minutes, Meow Meow arrives at the bar and finds Zuowei asleep on the table. The teacher suggests that they speak honestly instead of keeping their feelings bottled up, and then she leaves. Our couple then drives to the beach and, under the murmur of the waves, Zuowei wakes up and admits that he saw her on a date with Susie. She explains that it wasn't a date and reproaches him for not telling her that he was going abroad either. He confesses that he still didn't know what to do since he used to think love was nonsense and would have left without looking back. But now that he's in love, he hesitates. The only thing he's sure of is that he doesn't want to end their relationship, and the future becomes a crossroads. In response, our protagonist kisses him tenderly. She confirms that she doesn't want to end things either, and the next day she visits Zuowei's house and runs into his mother again, who shows her son's academic awards. The mother insists that someone like him should study abroad and assures her that because of their relationship, he has neglected his studies. She then asks Meow Meow to leave him, placing the weight of the decision in her hands. However, this request sticks in her like a thorn and the doubt grows and grows. When she leaves, Meow Meow walks to the beach and sits in front of the sea to think. She doesn't want to leave Zuowei, but she knows his talent deserves a better university. The conflict tears her apart, but just then, speaking of the devil, he appears, senses her sadness, and asks her what's wrong. She cuts the explanation short and suggests meeting somewhere else. And that place turns out to be a boxing ring. The two of them then put on their gloves. They hit each other gently while laughing, and suddenly Meow Meow punches him in the chest, drops to her knees, and bursts into tears. The mask of control crumbles and the truth comes to light. Zuowei asks her what's wrong again, confused by her pain. She confesses that she truly loves him and doesn't want to lose him. She says that he doesn't know anything about girls, that he only has laws on his mind, and that's why he doesn't understand what's going on. She adds that she's not an exceptional girl and that she doesn't have, nor will she ever have, the same opportunities as him. After hearing this, Zuowei hugs her. He tries to hold her in silence but can't find a clear answer. Meow Meow pulls away, looks at him firmly, and asks to end their relationship, leaving an open void. He watches her, confused, and repeats a question to which he gets no answer. The next day, Meow Meow closes her stall selling love products and attends class in silence. Zuowei doesn't show up, and the teacher, sensing the atmosphere, says that love is like life. It's not perfect, and sincerity is the most important thing. Meanwhile, Zuowei gathers his things and heads to the airport with his mother. He looks out the window, hoping to see Meow Meow one last time, but she doesn't come and the car keeps going. After this, years go by and Meow Meow becomes a renowned fashion designer. Her designs speak for her. Suo Wei, for his part, becomes a famous lawyer, also known for his understanding, a trait that once seemed impossible for him. Both shine along different paths, shaped by what they experience together. Fate, however, has one last twist in store, a reunion that is drawing near. After finishing with his client, Suo Wei hears a familiar voice that stops him. Of course, it's Meow Meow, who congratulates him on his empathy, and he replies that he owes it to her help. Despite how things ended between them, they interact naturally, and there's still a hint of complicity. Soon, the reason becomes clear. They are husband and wife. And how did that happen? You might be wondering that. Going back to the past, it turns out that Suo Wei told his mother he didn't want to go abroad. He admitted that he had always lived in his own world, and that after meeting Meow Meow, he realized that life has more than one option, and he doesn't want to lose her. Surprisingly, his mother stops the car, smiles, and lets him go to university, opening the door to change. When he arrives at the classroom, Suo Wei stands before Meow Meow and confesses his love to her once again. She accepts without hesitation. The whole class celebrates their relationship with applause, and they seal the moment with a kiss, closing the cycle that once separated them. Between that kiss and the echo of applause, it becomes clear that love doesn't always come when you're ready, but when you most need to learn. In the end, Suo Wei understands that knowledge without empathy is empty, and Meow Meow learns that kindness doesn't mean sacrificing yourself completely. They both choose to meet halfway, because it wasn't about who had the brightest future, but about who knew how to light up the other, and that light keeps them together to this day. The end. I imagine that teacher would be very proud of her methods. And for stories as dazzling as this one, I invite you to watch another video.